All right, thank you for staying with the Monday Report Town Hall session. We're talking about CBC life skills and values. It's an interesting conversation on the things the learners are learning, plus the role of the parents. Let's see what you're saying online. A lot of questions and comments coming through at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Monday Report. Let's bring that up on the screen. Dorcas Njenga says the life skills impacted by CBC are critical for improving employment rates in the country. However, they can improve the delivery, e.g. the pottery classes, let the parents provide the materials, then it is done in school with the proper guidance by a porter contracted by the government. Is that practical, Dr. Mugo? let's talk about that for a bit and get to the next one.
You know, actually one of the things that made impact on me was this one day when our teacher in Standard 2 decided to take us around the village, and we went to the blacksmith to see what kind of tools he was using to flatten the metals and so on. Then we went to the tailor to see how he was stepping on this thing, and it was like magic. And then we went to a shopkeeper, and it was a topic of introducing us to the trades around our village. And you know, I was in that village, but I had never really stopped by the blacksmith or had the time to, or the confidence to go in. And that I still remember, despite the fact that is many, many years ago. Every village has its technicians and people that can teach things, but I think this knowledge of education belongs to a teacher who is trained and so on. That bringing expertise to children to train has always been a critical part of educating and training. And there is no village in this country where there isn't one or two people out there who can come and teach. And I mean, contracting is good, but I'm sure some of these people can also volunteer when they understand the bigger cost of contributing to educating this generation. So opening the school for other experts to come in, I think, is a very valid point.
Yeah, and Dr. Ngina, we are bringing you this conversation on creativity and imagination, and we were talking about off camera during the break. Were the exams necessary, and how do you measure creativity and imagination? Because anybody could come up with anything.
Yeah.
Say, this is how my creative mindset thinks. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that for us, we have been working on assessment of these competencies. We have taken time to study problem solving, collaboration, and all that. And what we've realized is that you cannot talk about, I should not look at problem solving as problem solving. I should look at that logical process that Dr. Mugo mentioned.
Yeah.
If you think about collaboration, I should look at its subcomponents, the inner part of collaboration. So you need to communicate, you need to negotiate, then you start working together. And it is the same even with creativity and imagination. And I remember recently there was a tweet, I can't remember by who said, if you give 5,000 Kenya shillings to a group of people, they will start a similar business. So what is lacking is this lack of that able to see things from a different perspective. And so there are ways in which these skills can be assessed. And what we know, and researchers have said, that if something no one is measuring, people don't pay attention. If we had the national exams that is coming, starting next week, focusing on even a single question on self-efficacy or learning to learn, I'm telling you, parents will pay attention, teachers will pay attention, and all that. So assessment is good. But then what we need then is to build the capacity of people to first understand what is creativity. Because you should not just ask, the teacher should not just evaluate, did you see creativity? What is creativity? What are those subcomponents of creativity? Or what are those observable features of creativity? How can you tell that this person is creative? Yeah. What are the measurable aspects of it? And that is a question that everybody needs to. It's not just saying we are measuring creativity. There are subcomponents, there are things that you can observe, and that is why we need a framework that really defines these things. If you look at the CBC framework, it gives a definition, but I think we need to go deeper to understanding these competencies. For example, when I was starting this research on values and life skills, I thought collaboration, for me to observe collaboration is the person who speaks the loudest.
Yeah.
You know, in a group,
yeah.
The person who leads is a person maybe who speaks the loudest, or an extrovert, because again, those also temperaments play a very important role on how people judge you. But then when I started the process, I realized that it's beyond that. It is actually the person who speaks the loudest probably is not the best in collaboration. We have other thought leaders within the group that are very important. And so what we are saying is that there need to be a framework that really defines these competencies in a way that teachers can understand. In the classroom, what are they looking for? When you tell a teacher to assess learning to learn, what are they looking for? Or even when to teach, because if they are being nurtured or you're developing them and you want to get to the level of assessment, you really need people to continuously understand these competencies. So the conclusion in summary is that these competencies can be measured, but they require a lot of work because they're also contextual.
Yeah.
You know, maybe in a classroom in Nairobi, some of those creativity aspects might be seen on the lens of the environment that these children are in. But when you go to a county like Kakamega, maybe it's totally different. Creativity might be seen in a different angle. But creativity is very important. Let's just take an example of someone studying hospitality.
Yeah.
When you go to a nice hotel, sometimes you can just make whatever meal, but the presentation is what changes everything. Yeah. You're looking at it and you're like, wow, there's something that has happened here.
So in your research, what were you recommending as an assessment? Should it be continuous or should they have an exam like what they're doing next week?
Of course, there are different kind of assessment. Yeah. There is formative assessment that happens at the classroom level, and this is done by the teacher. So the teacher then needs the capacity to continuously do that kind of assessment. If you look at the CBC, it has given prominence to formative assessment, which never used to happen at the 844, because when children are in grade 4, they earn 20 marks, grade 5, they earn 20 marks, grade 6, they earn 20 marks. So they already have 60 marks. And when I was growing up, 60 marks was already a good grade.
Yeah, you're good to go. You don't need anything more.
You're good. You're good to go. So this formative, this now kind of a summative assessment, which is coming from the Kenya National Examination Council, is probably from how I look at it, is maybe to really, those check to compare what was happening at the classroom, what is happening, to compare the standards within the country. And it is just 40 marks. I think we are better where we are than where we are coming from. Yeah. Because what used to happen is that for us, and research also has documented that some of the time we studied, we crammed, we memorized. We knew, just to pass exam. Yeah, we knew what the lecturer is like or the teacher is likely to ask. You study exams. If also your teachers in the classroom are quite, they're analyzing results and they know where the questions are likely to come from. And you see people just reading to pass exams, but not to gain knowledge. And after that, someone said if you give an exam to children, someone scores a 60, you give the same exam 1 hour later, that person will score a 40. They downloaded everything. And for me, I look at CBC as a curriculum that really answers some of these questions. We need to get to the level where people are learning. Yeah. They are gaining knowledge. They are becoming intelligent. And let us not be defined by the grading. Because, and I know Dr. Mogo has mentioned many of these times when sometimes you were not able to kind of reevaluate 844 and CBC. And one of the questions that I've heard from him many times is that how many people you finished with, especially in class 8, are where you are. Yeah. And if you reanalyze that, you realize maybe 10% are doing better and maybe the others are still somewhere struggling. Yeah. So we cannot really continuously say that that is the best curriculum, that 90% of our people are struggling, didn't make it in sort of what making it is defined in our context. So I think CBC promotes a way where everybody will get this national cake and they'll grow the economy of this country. Okay, there's a lot of feedback. Let's bring up the next one that's coming through at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Monday Report. Let's bring that up on screen. Dorcas Njenga says they should include life skills and values like ethics, empathy, and stress management, mental health to the curriculum so that they are reinforced from home, school,
school and the religious aspect. Now, some of the values are there, Dr. Mugo. There's love, responsibility, respect, unity, peace, patriotism. Integrity is there. And Dr. Jenga is talking about ethics. This is coming at a time when in 2016, there was a research by the Aga Khan that showed more than 50% of the youth were willing to make money by hook or crook as long as one is not caught. 47% of them admired people who make money through crooked means. Even today, people who have the most money are the ones who are admired regardless of how they got that money. How then do you inculcate integrity at a time when the society so much glorifies money and what they see and not the process of getting it all?
Yeah, and they normally talk about the end justifies the means, which is a terrible thing, because when you look at integrity itself, which stems from honesty, you know, just being honest, that even if there's no one looking at you, you will do the same thing, you know, that you do when people are looking at you. And that, I think, we have to suffer from corruption and lack of integrity enough as a country for us to say we don't want that money that way. But I think the way things are now, we will still continue to suffer for some time. I don't know for how long, until we suffer enough. But I think also we quickly report the negative and we forget the positive. I think if, especially you, I challenge you, Trevor, that be highlighting also the nice things that happen. Like there was this police lady who, I don't remember the story. She got, I think, 250 or 25 million, a lot of money.
Yeah, and give it back.
And give it back.
It was on our channel, that's how you remember. So we did highlight it.
So I think if we focus on such, you know, I mean, it doesn't mean that she didn't need money. She's paid as poorly as that other policeman who had spent that same day, the whole day. Instead of checking the mistakes of drivers, they were collecting money. They are earning the same salary. This one makes this decision. This other one makes this decision. But I think the rewards for these kind of values are big.
Yeah.
And I think if we look at these people who are practicing, exercising these at all means as the beacons, you know, as the rays of hope. And we highlight the positive stories so that our children hear more of the positive stories than the negative. I think eventually the positive will overpower the negative.
Yeah. Dr. Ngina, what do you think? How can this be enhanced more in a country where it's, even the parents themselves, it's more like a competition? Because everybody, when the children come back, we were taken to this place, we were taken to that place, so it becomes almost a competition, and therefore honesty and integrity doesn't seem like the end thing. How then do you ensure that this is imparted on the learners?
I like the point where you've said, so, you know, when people are saying, I got this, you got this, you're taking your children to this, and, you know, sometimes we just live comparing ourselves with others, not being contented. And that, the question on mental health, you know, sometimes when you're not contented with what you have, what you earn, and just evaluating life in such simple ways, because life is for the living, but living doesn't mean you have to immerse all that kind of wealth.
Yeah.
But then we have a lot to do, and we said that we need to have role models. And it starts with us. It starts with parents. It starts with parents not helping their children to cheat exams that is coming in 2 weeks' time or in 1 week time. We have seen where learners are okay, but the parent provide the exams and they just go on and do these sort of things. And if you do that, then it means your child will never, you know, he or she knows that you're the person who doesn't have integrity.
Yeah.
So it starts from the communities. If the community themselves start changing, the parents, the church, whether it's Christian, Muslim, you know, talking about the importance of these things in a way that is realistic to the Generation Z. You know, so again, they look at things differently. I think we might move from where we are to where we ought to be. But of course, then, this is the first time we have this a curriculum that focuses on these things. This is the first time we have a constitution that even have independent institutions that are supposed to focus on ethics and all these competencies. So I think we are moving within the right direction. I'm hoping that in the 2040, we'll have a different kind of generation who are now thinking not about themselves, but, you know, about us collectively, citizenship, you know, thinking about how can I grow this country without thinking about myself. But then again, we all have, if you look at why people sometimes want to immerse a lot of wealth, is to take their children to good school, right? Good schools is defined in terms of the quality that you're getting. So assuming all the schools in Kenya were in such a way that they can provide that good quality education, then I don't need to get a lot of money to take my child to any private institution. I'll take my child to that school, right? Also, other people are so scared about their health and where they need to go to hospital. They define good hospitals being private hospitals, which are quite expensive. So assuming that the people given the mandate to do this kind of work have these skills and values that we are talking about, they are going to promote and help the environment. They're going to promote those hospitals to become better, right? Our leaders. And so I don't need to get all that money because I'm scared about my health. I know whichever hospital I go, it will still support me in ensuring. So there is a bigger picture. It's not, sometimes I sometimes forgive the people who want to get all these millions because I'm looking at them, maybe they want better education for their children, they want to fly them out of the country, they want good health and all those, good life.
Thinking Siuko Ubaya.
Yeah. So I try to, because sometimes it becomes very emotional and very sad state when you, like now many Kenyans are struggling. You know, we know there are many people without food. But we also know that there are so many with excess. But there are even those who have the little that they can take to the people who need. There's no that process. How can this, you transfer this? We saw reporting from, I think, here, where people in Nyandarua had excess, where other people didn't have enough. Lack of us thinking outside the box of how do we connect these two people. So I feel like CBC, in terms of the core competencies, if they are well nurtured, developed, environment is favoring, in 20 years from now, we will have a better country where people will not be worried about having wealth. You'll just know you can get what you need with the little that you earn. And sometimes I think there's pride in just having enough, which is from your handwork. And I think I would encourage every Kenya, every child to think about that, to be selfless. Let
go back to that tweet, the one before Nation J. Adero, because there's something that Dorcas mentioned, Dorcas Njenga's tweet on mental health and stress management. And Dr. Mugo, was that partly what was missed? Because right now, that is one of the issues that people deal with a lot. Not this one, the next one. There was an issue around mental health and stress management. Yes, there. That they should have included life skills and values like ethics, empathy, stress management, and mental health. Did we miss the mark on that particular one? And is this CBC going to be the silver bullet towards such issues? Because even back in the day, you would never talk about mental health that much. It's something that has cropped up recently.
I think, of course, the curriculum cannot exhaust everything because things keep emerging. Like now, mental health became very prominent over COVID, but the curriculum has one area called, the PCIs, contemporary and cross-cutting issues. And mental health would be put there alongside other things that keep emerging in society. And it is true, mental health, one of the solutions is life skills, because it's around stress management. How do you expand your capacity to handle stress? Because stress is part of life. And what kind of mindsets are needed for one to be able to process and handle stress in a better way. So these are things that children need to learn they are captured under contemporary cross-cutting issues in the curriculum, and this part of the curriculum keeps evolving. It's not written now that we are only dealing with it, because tomorrow something else emerges. 3 years ago we didn't know about COVID.
Yeah.
It just came and disorganized us. No one knows what might come next. Now we have drought. So, but one thing, Trevor, we are not saying that CBC is a silver bullet. It's not. No, I think far from it. We are just saying that it's better from where I stand, because the other curriculum was favoring, as Purity was saying, 10% of those of us that are intellectually gifted, cognitive, academic kind of thing. But we know children are gifted differently.
Yeah.
So the question now is, how do we look back at, how does the camera now turn? Because when KCSE results will be announced, I know we will be all over carrying the few children shoulder high,
yeah.
But the camera never turns the other way to see those that are now crying, are committing suicide, because they have been in this thing for 3 years from kindergarten, 8 years, that's 11 years, another 4 years, that's 15 years. And here now you are living with nothing. And yet that person maybe was very good in drama. So had they been pushed to a school that brought out that drama, they would have gotten an E in mathematics, because that's not their line, but an A in drama. Then they would not be failures. Those that were playing football very well, they were terrible in English and language, but when you gave them anything practical, they were really able to show and demonstrate that. Then they would get an A in that. And when they come out here, they have esteem, they feel good about themselves, they have a positive view to the world and a positive concept of self. They are able to face life with confidence and contribute productively. So the academic-only curriculum was a terrible one. And I hope everyone agrees, because it only favored a few of us around the table. And yet we cannot have a national curriculum, a national system that is about a few children. We have to have a system that somehow promotes talents in all children, not just a few.
All right, let me bring up the rest of the views that are coming through real quick, because we're running out of time here. Let's see what we can pick out from the tweets that are coming through at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Manda Report. Nation J. Adero says, this debate can't be complete minus discussing the unavoidable force of generational succession. How will the world of work be like for the current Gen Zs, the Alphas, and the future generations? Borderless and virtual collaboration with knowledge doubling in hours. All right? Let's see what else you're saying here. Kanja Samuel says, I think people have been thinking that CBC is a quick fix for all the problems. Our problem is more on value systems, which come more with intentionality and responsibility, not about the education system. Looking at 844, it inculcated its own values. Okay. Let's see what else you're saying here. Kiberenge says, we shall unlock the potential of our education when the actors at the top will understand that for parents down there, educating a child is an investment, and for every investment, there should be a return on investment, ROI. Okay, still return on investment there, it's interesting. Shadrach Kopio says, CBC is a good channel, but still doesn't address the problem and issues around life skills development in the real world. We are offering half-baked solutions for a fast-changing job market. Competing interests from cartels outweigh our children's interests. It's sad.
In capitals.
Yeah, that's the sad is in caps. Judith Ogueno says, you may need to in-service teachers and these skills and not assume they will simply apply them. Okay? Still more we can squeeze in there. Samson Mungadia says, let's be realistic and objective. Is CBC equipping our children for the future with projects like making scarecrows? Secondly, with the current education funding, how soon can we realize infrastructural needs of the syllabus? Okay. Let's see what else you're saying. Let's squeeze in one more. Enoch Oyeka says, it is in the home that the education of the child is to begin. Here is his first school. Here with his parents as instructors. He is to learn the lessons that are to guide him throughout life. Lessons of respect, obedience, reverence, and self-control. So, Dr. Muga, as we wind up on this, what has been done and now what remains to be done? Focusing on what really remains to be done. What do you recommend going forward?
The one thing is for teachers, for the curriculum developers, the ministry, to get every teacher to understand these things we are talking about. When you talk about imagination, what is imagination in the varied context of our country, and what are the different ways of promoting imagination? If we are to break imagination into three, what are the three things that we can say make up imagination, and how do we, promote everything? I think many teachers, if not most, still don't understand, have not come to this level. And I think it is important we invest, like in what we are doing here, to break this into parts so that people can start understanding. The other thing is the role of parents. I think for a long time, parents were ignored. Every time parents were called to school was about fees and telling them and reading names of those that have not completed fees. It was never about the contribution that parents bring in the education and the learning of their children. I think that bit of parents understanding their position, their power, and understanding the different ways they can do these things for the child as they grow from the early stage, because every developmental stage as we grow up has different needs. And this can be simplified even for a parent that never went to school to understand. And the other thing I think we have seen a bit of this is to just look at teacher training. We cannot continue to train teachers the same way and expecting different results. I think we are just lying to ourselves. Aspects of infrastructure are there, but I think it's important we prioritize teachers, because with a good teacher, a well-motivated teacher, even under a tree, children can learn. And we have seen this happening. So let's have teachers who are esteemed. Let's bring back that image of a teacher who believed in themselves, but a teacher also who is moving into the future, not remaining where we were. Because if we remain where we are, letting children cram and all that, we no longer now need to cram things. There's Google. I mean, when we were learning mathematics during my time, we were not allowed to use even calculators. We were supposed to use mental sums. Now I have my calculator everywhere I go. I don't need to cram. It's important to learn the basics, how the numbers add. So I think teachers also need to change into the future, just as parents, and continuing to even review policies. Like now, digital literacy you had asked. And you find is such a contradiction that we want to invest in laptops, we want to invest in computer labs in school, and the smartphone remains outlawed. You are not allowed. It's criminal to bring a smartphone to school, but we will invest in buying, and we know our money is not enough. Yeah. So why not let the children who have smartphones, the half of them bring smartphones, so that we only need fewer gadgets to give those that don't have, and all of them can learn together. Or we can take these gadgets to places where parents are poorer and they don't have, rather than buying for everyone, even those that have two computers at home. We don't want them to bring that laptop at home. We want them to come and learn with the one at school. I think there are many contradictions, and we can question these policies and mend them so that we are able to make the progress that is needed.
Okay. Dr. Ngina, as we wind up on this, you mentioned some research that you're doing. When is the report coming out? And I'm sure you don't want to talk about the report in detail, but you can touch on it a bit.
So we have been conducting this research on assessment of life skills and values in East Africa with a team of 70 other organizations. We are very good in promoting collaboration. We don't want to just say about collaboration while ours are not. So we have 70 organizations in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania under the Regional Education Learning Initiative. We have done an assessment in Kenya where we assessed 17,276 adolescents. And their story will be shared on Wednesday. We'll be having, to present our findings, what our adolescents are saying, where they are. And for me, when I look at the report, is about their story up as per now. But the future of those children depends on us. So they will tell us where they are coming from, but that should not define them. We need to do something. So we are going to release a report on the level of proficiencies when it comes to problem solving, which is part of the CBC.
Yeah.
Self-awareness, I know the CBC talks about self-efficacy, but the big umbrella, you know, for us, we looked at self-awareness as the one that really bring all these skills that are in the self domain, because we have the cognitive, the self, the social domain and all that. And then we have collaboration, where we assessed learners in groups, because again, you can't assess an individual child. And we have respect, which is a value. And it is very interesting. It is one of its kind, not just here in Kenya, but also in Uganda and Tanzania, because it's a first national kind of assessment to think about these values and life skills.
Yeah.
And for us, we want people to use the findings to think about how then can we move forward. Because when you look at the story of education, people point the problem, but then what is the action? What is the role of policymakers? Yeah. What is the role of parents? What is the role of media in sharing, the creating awareness on the importance of these competencies? Yeah. And Trevor, allow me to just mention, this is something that has troubled me. One of the comments made about the activities that children are doing, that someone look at them as backward. If I have a very young child, the activities we are doing now is putting blocks together. You know, that is where we are at the moment, and we'll keep building on that. And I think that is what we are talking about. Yes, maybe I gave an example of cooking. No one will ever examine you later, whether you, unless you take hospitality as one of your career. But then through the process, through this activity, what is the skill you're learning? And I think that is where people are not able to get. They look at the activity and they think this is what teachers are supposed to be teaching. Teachers are not teaching children how to make scarecrow or to see them. We have seen them sweeping markets and all that. They're teaching them these core competencies. You have to use activities. I know there's a country, I can't remember the name, where every child must be taught chess. Yeah. Because chess, for them, is an activity that helps learners to get these social-emotional skills. Yeah. The cognitive skills. So we need to really understand before we start pointing and saying this, and this, and this. We need to really see the bigger picture. What are you learning from that? Mm. And I think you keep on building. So today I will put blocks. Tomorrow I'll try something else the next day. But in the process, I'm just building the cognitive aspect. And when you look at the future of work, yeah, we don't know what is going to be there in 2040. Believe me that most of our learners and the things we are giving them might not be what is needed in 2040. But what will remain are these core competencies, because they are able to, if you think about learning to learn, I'm a trained teacher. Right? I'm working now with Dr. John Mugo in research. I'm able to transfer the knowledge I gained to this other field. I'm able to unlearn what I learned, to learn new things. I'm able to think outside the box. Otherwise, probably I wouldn't be surviving with an expert in this work. You get the point, right? Yeah. Yeah. That we need to really appreciate the value of this core competencies. Yeah. And when you read literature, everybody is talking about their importance. And it is through science, it is through research. I mean, we should not be left behind. All right. Yeah.
Very well said. Thank you so much for making time. We're running out of time. We always run out of time when we're talking about CBC matters because it's quite elaborate. Dr. John Mugo, Executive Director, Zizi Afrique, thank you so much for making time. Dr. Purity Ngina, Evidence Manager at Zizi Afrique, asante sana for making time. We're talking about the CBC Blackboard, Life Skills and Values. This is a series that we're keeping a special focus on next week. We'll invite the parents and there's some of the teachers as well here to give their views on what these life skills have worked, have they not worked, and the values, what need to change, what doesn't need to change. That is what we're committing to do here next week on our final series of the CBC Blackboard. My name is Trevor Mbije. It's always a pleasure having you with us. And even if I didn't take some of your views, there are quite a number of them. I'll assure you we'll do this again on Monday next week. All right, on behalf of the entire team that made this possible, it's bye and good night. And thank you so much for watching.